Hello, everyone. I am glad you're here. My name is Kelly Wayment, and I have been working with silhouette machines for a long time, pretty much since the first machine came out. And I love teaching beginners. And so if you are a beginner, you are in the right place, and hopefully we'll get your questions answered. And if you are unfamiliar with your machine or haven't taken it out of the box, you're afraid to get started, hopefully by the end of this class, you'll be a little more motivated to get going on cutting with your silhouette machine. Go ahead and put in the chat if you already have a silhouette machine, and maybe if you do, whether you've used it or not. Kind of want to get a feel for how many beginners we have here. Let's see. So this class is an introductory class for silhouette, and we're going to keep it simple. But if you do have questions, I'd love to answer those. We will go ahead and get started by talking about the different silhouette machines that are available. So first of all, move my laptop out of the way. This is the Cameo 4. This is the current model of Cameo. This is the 12-inch model. So if you've got this little lid that goes in and out and tucks behind in the light up Cameo, that is a Cameo 4. But the silhouette software will work with all silhouette cutting machines. So whether you've got a Cameo 4 or a Cameo 1, 2, or 3, if you've got portrait machines of any model, those will all work with the Silhouette Studio software. But the Cameo 4 is, I guess, what we call our flagship machine. And this one is probably my favorite because it's the most versatile. So it'll cut up to 12 inches wide and then quite long. When you get this machine, and this sells for $299.99 at Michael's, it comes with an auto blade. It comes with a cutting mat, which I don't have out at the moment, but you can cut anything on the cutting mat like paper or sticker paper, things like that. And then also vinyl, but you can also cut vinyl without any cutting mat on the Cameo 4. Actually, you can cut vinyl on any silhouette cutting machine, the Cameo or the portraits, without a mat. The Cameo 4 has a built-in roll feeder. So if you are using a roll of vinyl, either 12 inches or 9 inches, those are the two standard sizes, you just pull it out from underneath, move this little piece up here, and then you can adjust these rollers to fit what size of vinyl you're cutting. So if you're cutting a 12-inch roll of vinyl, you can move it out to the 12-inch spot. If you're cutting a 9-inch roll of vinyl, you move it into the 9-inch spot. And it's got a little mark on there, and it kind of locks into place. So just really easy to use your vinyl, stick it through and feed it in. And I will actually show you, we'll do a little bit of vinyl cutting for our project, just to show you how that works. On the back of the Cameo machine is a cross cutter. So if you have vinyl that's coming through the back, you can put down these little tabs to lock it into place and then roll this little cross cutter across, and it'll slice your vinyl, and then make sure you lift these tabs back up. That's a really nice feature built into the Cameo 4 machine. It does cut 12-inch vinyl and 9-inch vinyl without a mat. You can adjust the rollers. So if you're adjusting the rollers, and again, I'll show you this in a minute when we actually cut vinyl, but if you need to adjust your rollers, you just put down the lock lever. And this is the case with older Cameo models as well. You put down the lock lever, and then you can adjust your width of your roller grips to different widths. And the Cameo 4, one of the nice things I like about it is, compared to older Cameo models, is this adjustment knob is really, really easy. You just press your thumb on the little gray spot there and slide it until it locks into the position it needs. And then when you're done adjusting it, lift that little tab up. All right, so that is the Cameo 4. Michaels also sells a Cameo Plus and the Cameo Pro. So let me bring up the Cameo Pro. This machine cuts up to 24 inches in width, and it does have a 24 by 24 inch cutting mat that comes with it. And really the only difference between the Cameo Pro, the Cameo Plus, and the Cameo 4 is the size. So the function of the machine is the same between all the Cameo 4 models. And then of course the price tag is different because you're getting that huge difference in cutting width. So the Cameo Plus is $399.99 on Michaels, and the Cameo Pro is $499.99 on Michaels. I'm going to put this back down. And show you our other very popular and very nice machine. This is the Portrait 3. So this is a smaller, actually, I am going to go ahead and bring it down. This is the smallest model of cutting machine from Silhouette, and this is just really convenient. I love this one because it's so portable. It's also just perfect for cutting 9-inch wide rolls of vinyl and letter size or A4 size paper. So it's just super convenient. It's really lightweight. It doesn't adjust the width of the rollers like the Cameo does. And it only has one one tool holder. So you can either use sketch pens or a blade in this one, but it is so convenient. It does almost what the Cameo does, but it's in just such a cute little small package, and it's just really nice to have. I have both, and I switch between both. One thing I neglected to mention on the Cameo 4 is that it's got a dual carriage. So it's got a regular cutting blade that I mentioned does come with the machine. And then it's got a second carriage that uses specialty tools. So like the rotary blade, let me see if we've got one. We've got a secret compartment here. No rotary blade in there right now, but it will use a rotary blade or a craft blade in this second carriage. And so like the rotary blade you can use for cutting fabric without any type of interfacing. You can use, here we go. The rotary blade will cut fabric without interfacing. It'll cut felt, it'll cut crepe paper. And so that one goes in the second carriage. And then you've got these two different functions for this machine. The second carriage has a lot more force to it, and it's only for special blades with special materials. So if you're ever not sure what blade goes in which side, there's a little number. It's really hard to see because it's white on white, but this has a number 2 on it, and so does the carriage. It has a number 2 there, and then your auto blade has a number 1 on it, and then there's a little number 1 on the little lock piece. Okay, any questions specifically about the machines? McKenna, is there anything I need to address? Okay. All right, so let me show you really quickly something I found today. I'm going to share my screen. If you go to the Michaels website and you just type Silhouette, in the search bar, it brings up this really nifty Silhouette dedicated page. So you've got classes that can show up, and you've got your different categories. So if you're looking for specific, here we go. So Silhouette classes and videos, if you click here, it will bring up the recordings of different classes that we've done. It will bring up some for Cricut too. And those might be worth watching because a lot of the things you can do with all the different cutting machines on the market, you can also do with the Silhouette machine. But if you're just looking for Silhouette specific classes, they're labeled here with Silhouette. So that's really fun. And then if you want to look at the specific machines for Silhouette, you just click on this tab that says machines. And it's got what Michael's has for you. So you've got your 3 different colors of white, pink, and black for the Cameo 4. You've got the Cameo 4 Plus, and there's the portrait machine, the Portrait 3. So just type Silhouette in the Michael search bar, and that will bring up those things for you. All right, so let's move on to a little bit of the software. I want to show you where you can get the software and how to just download designs from the design store, and then we'll do a little project so you can kind of see the machine in action. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so here is Silhouette Studio. This is what runs our Silhouette machines. And I love Silhouette Studio. It's just an amazing software. And it may seem a little bit intimidating because you've got all of these icons across the top, but we're just going to stick with the basics today and maybe 1 or 2 really, really handy tools just to give you kind of an overview. Now, if you don't already have Silhouette Studio, you can download it from the Silhouette website. So just go to silhouetteamerica.com. And just click on software. There's a little menu bar at the top, and then get software. And then right here, just click that little download button. And it is, most computers are going to be using a Mac has one option, and then most PCs are going to use the Windows 64-bit. And it's supposed to know what version you need just by clicking that download button. There is a little issue I've noticed with Firefox. It wants to give you a 32-bit, but other browsers are working well as of yesterday, that will give you the version that you need just by clicking this little download button. Okay, so once you have Silhouette Studio installed, you have all your options here for you. Let me show you how to download a design. So up here is this little tab at the top that says Store. And so if you click that, it'll open a web browser and it'll open silhouettedesignstore.com. So you can also go into silhouettedesignstore.com and get to the same place. What you want to look for is this top banner that rolls across. This shows whatever's on sale, catches your attention so you can not miss out on those deals. And then this one specifically, free design of the week. Every Tuesday, Silhouette releases a free design that you can go in and every Tuesday just get it for free. So this week, we're getting closer to Father's Day this month. And so there's a fun #1 dad. So if you just see the design you want, all you do is click to add it to your cart. And then you can either use this little arrow to check out here, or you can go to your little cart button in the upper right corner that will check out. Obviously, if you haven't set up a Silhouette account yet, you would need to do that to be able to download things from the Silhouette Design Store. So I've got this in my cart and it's free. And so just down at the very bottom, check out. It asks for your password. And so once you download your designs, it automatically adds it to your Silhouette Studio library. So I'm going to go back into Silhouette Studio. And if I go to the library tab, I just need to go over to recent downloads. So it's going to go into your folder. You can see on the left here in my library, I have created a whole bunch of subfolders. And so I've got various designs that I have just sorted into these subfolders. But when you get a design from the design store, it's going to show up in recent downloads. So here's this one that we just got, number 1 dad. And if you click on the little box here, it'll give you extra details. So who the artist is, the design ID number, whether you bought a personal or commercial use license. And then sometimes it'll have further instructions in the description if the artist provided that. Okay, so do we have any questions so far? Okay. Oops, I don't want to go to my store. I want to go back to Silhouette Studio. I've got all my Zoom buttons kind of in the way, so give me a moment here. Okay, so you could, in your library, just double click on the design you want to open, and it'll just open it for you. And then your options are to resize it, recolor it, anything you want. If you are resizing something, use one of these corner handles. So if you hover your mouse over one of these corner boxes, you can resize this. Cutting files that are made as cut files and not printable files, these are vector files, so you can really make it as big or as small as you want, and it'll cut for you. I want to show you today, if you don't have any questions so far, I want to show you, oh, okay.
Someone said, can we search free images and download all of them to get our library stocked?
Okay, so the question is, can you search for free images and stock up your library with free images? So you have a bunch of options on free images. So when you get a machine, you will get a set of designs that comes with it. So the portrait comes with, I think, 50 designs, and the Cameo comes with like 100 designs, and those will go into your library. And if you don't want to use those, or if you just want to add more, in the design store, there's this tab up here that says free. So click the tab that says free, and this is going to show you everything that's free at the moment. So there's your free design of the week. There's often something that's related to things going on seasonal. And at the moment, we've still got some things left over from Easter and Mother's Day. This is new that I haven't, you can see that I go through these free designs pretty often because it shows this little black bar that I own it already. So here's a new one. This looks like it's a 3D file. So if I click on that, that's going to be a paper 3D file. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to my cart since I don't have it yet. But this section will show you all of these free designs. And lots of times there's a font also. So that fresh mix font showing at the moment is free. And then down here, you can see these have a little different. They've got free with purchase. So sometimes it's free with any purchase. Sometimes it is free if you purchase some other artists, you know, something else from that artist. So that's the case with this one. It says free with purchase. It'll tell you what you need to do to get it free. So this one is free with the purchase of one design from Sophie Gallo. So if you buy something else from Sophie Gallo, you also get this one free. And even in this one, once in a while, there's a collection that you can view. And it will bring up related files. And so that's what the artist has put as a collection of related files. So you can look at those. And if you see a couple of those you like, and the one that says free with purchase, you can get that one of them free. Also, make sure you sign up for the Silhouette newsletter because you will get notified when there's a sale on Design Store files. And if you're not picking free ones, you can think about them for a little while by adding them to your wish list. So if you just click the little heart there, then you've got a wish list that will just hold the files that you're thinking about. So a lot of times I'll fill up my wish list and wait for a Design Store sale. And then I'll add them to my cart at that point. If you want it right now, you can also buy it right this moment. If you want to move it from your wish list to your cart, there's just a little cart button. So we also have a recent Silhouette 101 blog post that talks a lot about the library and Design Store. Okay, has that answered questions to this point? Do we have any further questions?
Somebody asked, can you cut vinyl with the machine?
So the question is, can you cut vinyl with the machines? And that is a resounding yes. I love cutting vinyl with my machines. It's a really fun medium and you can cut it without a mat. And I'm actually going to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open a new document. That's really easy to do by clicking this little plus at the top where you've got your other documents. So if you click the little plus, it opens a new document. And I want to show you a couple of tools available. Like I said, you could, if you didn't want to use the tools, you could go ahead and cut this one out just to practice your free file. But I want to show you some of the fun tools over on the side here. So we've got a text tool and we've also got some shape tools. So I'm running Business Edition, which gives me a few more things that you might not see on your screen. So Basic Edition, you've got these shapes, a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, an oval, and a polygon. And then if you have Designer Edition Plus or Business Edition, you've got flexi shapes. So let me show you first, for those of you who are only running Basic Edition or Designer Edition, we'll just use these drawing tools that are standard for everybody. And I'm going to choose this Draw a Regular Polygon. So I'll click on that. And when I come over to my design page, I've got a little plus that hovers there. And if I just click and drag with my mouse, you can see a shape will form. And sometimes as you are dragging this, I'm just dragging my mouse in and out, you can see that it just goes whatever direction I'm kind of turning my mouse. So you can play with your Shift key, your Control key, and your Alt key. And sometimes one of those, as you hold it, will snap to a flat base. So here we go. The Alt key on this shape, if I hold the Alt key while I'm clicking and dragging, it will hold that bottom line perfectly horizontal. So I want to make this about 3 inches. Okay, so then I let go of my mouse first and then let go of my Alt key just to make sure it doesn't swing off from some other, off at some other angle. This shape will let me choose how many sides I want. So this one started out with a pentagon, right? 5. But you can go down to a triangle with 3. You can get a square with 4. There's your pentagon, your hexagon, and just keep going. And you can go all the way up quite far until it basically looks like a circle. So let's see. I want to do a hexagon. So 6 sides, and that looks cute. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Here's your zoom tools at the top in case you want to be able to zoom in and out to your mat really well. You can just click this little plus to zoom in a little bit. One of my favorites is the plus with the mouse, because then I can drag to the kind of focus where I want to zoom into. And when I let go of my mouse, it'll zoom in just to that shape. If you want to go back to see your full page again, click this little rectangle with the 4 arrows, and it'll go fit to window and show you your full media size again. Let's see. So if you have Designer Edition Plus or Business Edition, you have flexi shapes. So this will give you things like a star, some arrows, some like a postage stamp kind of looking thing, just a whole bunch of different options. And these are all adjustable as well. So I'm just going to click on this one that looks a little bit like a postage stamp and click and drag. Now, most of these shapes, when you're drawing them, they'll do like a rectangle or an oval, kind of stretch it out. If you want to keep it perfectly proportional, like a square, just hold your Shift key while you're dragging your mouse, and that'll keep it as a perfect circle or square, depending on what you're drawing. And all of these flexi shapes are a little bit different. And so you've got these little red nodes you can drag and see what they do. And then a lot of them, see, I lost my perfect square. So obviously this one, once you try and adjust it with the nodes, it doesn't keep that perfect square. So I'm just going to undo a couple of times to get back to where I was and redo. Okay, there's my square. And then again, you've got these options where you can change something on the flexi shape by dragging. You're just looking for white nodes, red nodes, and a little drag slider to see what they do. Okay, so this one, also if I click once, then I get this bounding box again, and I can drag that corner to get that shape resized proportionately, because we know that the nodes were not doing that for us. Another thing you can do to resize a shape is go up here to your scale window or your scale tools in the quick access toolbar. And if you leave that lock in place, so this one, if I want to change it to 3 inches, it'll change it proportionately. If I wanted to change it like to something else, like 3 inches by 4 inches, I would want to unlock that and just change the one side that I want to change. So hopefully that makes sense. Do you have any questions about the shape tools? Okay, so we've got these 2 options for shapes. And the other tool I just want to show you, because it's really handy, is the text tool. So Silhouette Studio will take any font that's installed on your computer and will let you use that font to type your words and create your projects. So over here on the left, there's this letter A. That's your text tool. So if I click on that once, and then I bring my cursor over to the design page, you can see that it looks a lot like a cursor for text. So if I click once, Now I've got this flashing cursor, so I can type what I want. So I'm going to type dad in all caps. And this can then be adjusted to any font you want. You can buy fonts from the Silhouette Design Store, or if you have other fonts that you've installed on your computer, you can use those fonts as well. You've got options up here. These are the most common options to change your font. And you can change your font size. You've got more options and your justification. You've got more options if you go over here on the right and open your text style panel. I'm going to click that. And I'll just drag the panel over here. And when I have this selected, I can choose any font I want. And if I know the name of my font, I can start typing it. So I'm just going to highlight in the little input box and going to say, I know my font is called Stars and Stripes. So I start typing it and it'll populate. And so then I'll click on that font and it has changed my font to Stars and Stripes. And so you can go through your list and click and see what these different fonts are going to look like. And then I'm just going to undo and go back to that first one of Stars and Stripes. Oops. Okay, I'm going to click off and click once again. There, it's showing the right font. So do we have any questions about fonts?
Nope.
Okay. So I thought it would be fun to cut something out of vinyl and put it on a mug. And so let me stop my screen share. Okay, so I've got a mug, a couple of mugs here. And what you want, if you're applying vinyl to a surface, a couple of things you want to know is that it works better if you're applying to a smooth surface. So this, you can tell it's glossy and smooth. That's going to take vinyl really well. The other thing you want to pay attention to with vinyl is you want a flat surface. So it's okay that it curves, you know, across the side, but if this were tapered, you can get a little bit of warping as you try to apply your vinyl. So if you're starting out with vinyl, I suggest picking something that's like a straight-sided mug as opposed to a tapered mug. You're not going to want to do a tapered mug unless you restrict your design to something smaller and keep it in this flat area. Avoid any kind of curves and tapers when you're using vinyl. So you can apply it to this straight-sided mug. And then all you need is vinyl and transfer tape, really. And let me show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to get my Cameo 4 plugged in. It does run from the Cameo 4, and a lot of the Silhouette machines do run from Bluetooth, but I just really like my USB cable. There's never any question. And let's see.
So we have a question, I'm not sure of the answer, but someone said, can you cut marine vinyl to embroider on?
Okay, so marine vinyl is, I think that's a thicker vinyl. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're cutting something, so technically, if you're just using the auto blade or a deep cut blade, you can cut as deep as 2 millimeters, but the thicker you get and the denser the material you get, the harder, the more difficult it is to cut. So you would really have to test that. I haven't tested marine vinyl, so I can't answer that for sure. But usually when we say vinyl, we're talking about adhesive vinyl. So this is a Silhouette brand adhesive vinyl. This is a 9-inch wide roll. You can also buy it in 12-inch rolls. And you are, you can also use other brands of vinyl. So at Silhouette, we just want you to have all of the creative control and have all your options open to you. So you can use other brands of vinyl. They're all pretty much the same, but you're going to want to test cut. So to cut this 9-inch vinyl, we're going to pull out the roll feeder. And you don't have to use a roll feeder. Like if you've got older Silhouette models that don't have it, or a portrait or something that doesn't have a roll feeder, you can buy a roll feeder that kind of hooks on the bottom, or you can just leave it on your table and just be careful and watch that it doesn't roll off. So we've got this locked in place. It can still roll smoothly. And then we need to adjust our rollers to be able to grip this vinyl completely on either side. And so there's a couple of arrows here to know where to put your roller bar or your roller. I guess it's just called a roller. Okay, so I'm going to press a button to slide it over. And you do, when you're adjusting these rollers, you do need to make sure that they fit into the groove that is intended. You don't want to have it a lot closer or a lot farther out, somewhere in between the arrows, because that is not how the machine was made to function. It really needs to be lined up with these arrows and it sit in the groove where it's intended. So once you have it where it needs to be, lock your roller bar up in place again. And then your vinyl, whether you're loading a matte or vinyl on the Cameo 4 and other older Cameo models, you are just lining up the left edge with this guideline. And so press the load button. Okay, and I usually like to give it a little visual look at the top and make sure that it fed in evenly. So you can kind of compare it against the cutting strip to make sure it's the same amount all the way across. And then make sure that your tabs are up in the back on the Cameo 4, which they are. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the screen share. So you can see what I'm doing in the software. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. See, we made this about 3 inches. We made this about 3 inches. And I'm just going to drag my word dad up in there. And maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. If I want to center this, I can select both the that shape we've created and the text. And up here in the quick access toolbar are some really handy aligning tools. And if I click this one that just says center, it's going to center it both vertically and horizontally at the same time. And I can drag the hexagon out of the way. I can close my text style panel. The other thing I can do is click and drag to select those both, and I can group them. So if I click group up here in the quick access toolbar, then if I accidentally just grab one of them, now they're grouped together and they will move together. One thing about Silhouette Studio, I'm going to go back to my fit to window, is whatever is on your virtual media is going to cut, and it's going to cut exactly where you put it. So if I had a piece of 12 by 12 inch paper and I put my design over here, this is where it's going to cut. What you see on this design page is where it's going to cut. So you've got all of that control. I'm going to put in the upper left. One of the things I definitely need to do is set up my page setup panel, because I'm going to be cutting from this 9-inch vinyl roll. So I'll go to my page setup panel, which is the upper right icon over here. And my machine is the Cameo 4. You would change that if you're using a different machine. My cutting mat, since I loaded that vinyl without a mat, I want to choose none as my cutting mat. And then my media size is going to match whatever media I've got in there. So I'm using a 9-inch wide roll. So my width is 9 inches. And then and you can see that that'll change visually on the screen for you. And then the height doesn't really matter. If you're cutting from a roll, you can put it at 12 inches, you can put it at 20, 36, it doesn't matter if your design still fits within this cut border that you can see. You can just leave the height whatever you need to. If you're cutting on the mat, I suggest that you put your media size exactly the size of media you're using. Since we're using a roll, I'm just going to leave it at 9 inches wide and 12 inches high. I mentioned that there's a cutting border. If you don't see this red cut border, you need to make sure down here that you check the box for show cut border. If I turn it off, it suddenly looks like I have more available cutting space than I do. So I always leave this box checked to show cut border. And then I need to make sure that my design I'm going to cut really is within that area. If I have it overlap the cut border, it's not going to cut anything that's outside of that cut border. And I'm going to give myself a little extra space here. I know I'm going to want to do a test cut. Okay, so there's our design. When you're ready to cut, you just go to the Send tab. And this is suddenly decided in the last minute that it needs a firmware update. So it's only going to take a minute. So what you do is if it gives you a message that you need a firmware update, just click Update Now. And these days it's really pretty fast and it tells you not to switch off your Cameo 4. So do we have any questions I can answer while that is doing its thing?
We just got a question. Can you cut fabric on the Cameo?
Okay, so the question is, can you cut fabric on the Cameo? And yes, you can. On the Cameo 4 that has a rotary blade, you can cut fabric without any type of interfacing. And you would just buy the rotary blade that is sold separately and use your settings over here to do that. And we've actually got some tutorials and classes on cutting with fabric with the Cameo 4. You can go to silhouette101.com and just search fabric and see if that brings up for you what you're looking for. If you're using an older model of Cameo or a portrait that does not have a rotary blade, then you just use interfacing, a fabric interfacing that will stiffen your fabric and that will let you use the auto blade to cut your fabric, because then it suddenly has a thicker surface and a sturdiness to it that will let you cut with the auto blade. So yes, you can cut fabric, and it just depends on which tool you're using, whether you need interfacing or not. Okay, so that looks like my firmware update is done, and it says ready to load. So I'm gonna, because it did the firmware update, it forgot that I had loaded that. So I'm just gonna unload it, load it back in. Okay, and now it says ready. And we need to choose over here our material, our action, our tool. So since I'm using a Cameo 4, I'm using the auto blade, and the Cameo 4 has auto detection for the tool, so I don't have to think about it. What I do need to choose is the material. And so if I just type vinyl up here in the top, I'm using glossy vinyl, so I can click that. And it just thinks for a second, and then it knows that I want to cut because I have the auto blade selected. And then over here, it will give me default blade depth and everything, but I already know that I like to cut vinyl a little bit deeper. So I'm going to set my blade depth to 2, and I like my force at 8 and my speed at 9. And I'm going to do a little test cut. So if I just click test, the test cut is just going to make a little triangle and square in the upper left corner. And when I'm testing my vinyl, I actually like to try and pull the square and leave the triangle behind. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's actually kind of trying to pull up the triangle also. So that's an indicator that I might want my cut settings just a little bit deeper. I think my blade might be not at its sharpest anymore. So I'm going to try increasing my force just a little bit. Load that. And okay, so I'm going to increase my force. I could go 10, maybe 11. When I'm just trying to do small increments, you change your force. If you want bigger jumps, you change your blade depth. Now, if I want to do a test cut again, I don't want to cut it in the same spot. So you can either use the arrow keys. So you know down here on the Cameo 4 is your load and unload. Up here is where you can move the blade itself. So I'm going to move my blade to the right just a little bit. Down a little bit. And now I can see that my blade is not directly over the spot where I cut before. So that's what you're going to do if you need to do a second test cut. And we'll test that again. It's going to make the test cut basically right underneath where you placed the blade. Okay, so we'll try that again. Pull the square away from, leave the triangle behind. That worked a little bit better. Okay, so I'll load it one more time. And last thing, I know I've got those 2 test cuts there in the upper left, and I've got room. So I'm just going to drag my design a little further over just to make sure that it doesn't cut into those test cuts. And I'll go ahead and send. And it's just going to cut out that design exactly as I had it on the screen. Okay, so that cut out. We're just going to assume that that cut well. So now if you want to use the cross cutter on the back with the Cameo 4, I'm going to move not the unload button, but the arrow key. I'm going to push the down arrow because basically that's telling my machine that I want to move the blade housing down further. So that will scroll my vinyl through the back. And I just want to make sure that I am past the bottom edge of that design. So once I've done that, move the tabs, slice the roll feeder, or the cross cutter, and bring those tabs back up so you don't get it blocked for next cut. And now we can unload that. All right, so let's finish this up. Vinyl is one of the easiest things to work with. It's a great beginner medium. So now our only job is to leave the design behind that we want to be there. So we're gonna just pull away the vinyl. And get rid of that extra little triangle. And now we're actually going to take out the letters and have the dad show through. And I want to make sure that my centers of my letters stay in there. And when I'm using my hook, I want to make sure that I'm hooking the part that I know is going to be thrown away and not the part that we want to stay there. Okay, so there is our little dad cut out. And then with vinyl, you use transfer tape. So I just want to make sure that my transfer tape is big enough to pick up that full design. Grab my scissors. And then this one is Aura tape. It's got a nice little grid on the back. Okay, so I'll use kind of this square. My mug ready. A lot of times it's helpful to just rub like an alcohol pad or something if you're worried there's fingerprints on your surface. And I can never get transfer tape off when I'm filming a class. Okay, so the transfer tape is clear and it's sticky. And so you're just going to press it down. I like to kind of curl it a little bit and press the center down first against my design. And then it's usually really easy to, let's see, it's usually pretty easy to just peel the backing away from the sticky vinyl. So go slow. You want to make sure you don't lose any of those centers. Here we go. Then just make sure my mug is where I want. And again, I will usually press the center down first. And then press away from the center. And this time we'll just remove the transfer tape carefully, and it leaves the vinyl behind. And you can actually save this transfer tape for another project. You can reuse it if you didn't get it dirty and any debris on it. So that's what that looks like applied. So you could also use the same design to cut it out of paper. And if you didn't want, if you don't need another mug for Father's Day, you could totally use the same design for a card. Just make a card front and cut it out of paper. Really simple first design. So do we have any questions?
We just got one. Can you wash the cup and not have the design come off?
So I recommend hand washing. So two things. Use permanent vinyl. So it would be Silhouette glossy vinyl or Oracal 651, something like that, something labeled permanent adhesive vinyl. And then you're probably better off hand washing instead of sticking it in the dishwasher. But that being said, I do have some mugs that I've washed in the dishwasher for 3-4 years and the design hasn't come off. It always kind of depends on what the design is. And if your surface was really clean before you put it on there, you would also, even if you're using permanent vinyl, I would say let it sit for at least 24 hours to kind of cure and really get on there before you try to wash it. But yeah, it can be washed. Any other questions? Do you have any questions about anything we talked about or concerns that are holding you back from getting started with your Silhouette machine?
Felicia put the link for the next premium class. Kelly.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so that's great. We've got another class next Wednesday on the 8th. I'm not teaching that one, but we've got a Silhouette class. And then in June, on June 15th, it is June now, isn't it? This is a class I am teaching on June 15th. So this is a premium class. It's more for intermediate users. This one's going to be pretty involved, although the cutting itself is not difficult at all. If you're ready for a challenge, a really good first project, or if you're not a beginner and you're ready for something different, I love making paper flowers. And so this is June 15th. I'm going to teach you how to make all of these flowers, all of the greenery, and arrange it in a vase. So you'll get these paper dahlias and the greenery files. Those will be available in the Silhouette Design Store for free that week. And this was one I'm really excited about. So I hope that you join me or tell your friends. But that one is June 15th. And if we don't have any other.
We have one more. Someone said, how do you lock the pull-out drawer?
So locking the pull-out drawer, this one I'm assuming. There's two places that it locks, obviously for the width of the vinyl. It's got marks and it'll settle into place. When you're actually pulling it out, maybe you might be talking about if it moves in and out as it's cutting. It really is supposed to just lock and hold there. And if for some reason it's moving as you do your work, you might need to babysit it, but really it should be when you pull it fully out, it does lock into place. It's kind of a gentle, softer lock, but you might need to babysit it just a little bit if it is giving you kind of trouble. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, well, thank you guys for joining me. And we have these beginner classes pretty much once a month. So if you feel like you didn't get what you wanted out of this one, you can attend again. Those ones are always free. And if you're ready for something more advanced, just watch for our more advanced premium classes. And you can always watch the replay on Michael's YouTube channel or go to michaels.com/classes. And you can watch replays of them. We've tried to make it really easy for you so you can enjoy your machines. So thanks for joining me.